Hey, you guys. Welcome to Talk About It Thursdays. I am your host, Karen Bailey. Let me know when you're on. I will be glad to say hello to you. We're going to give everybody just a minute to hop on, and then we will get started for today. Last week, you guys, we talked about take the lid off of your life. So I hope some of you guys were able to see yourselves. And hey, Miss Ola, and see where your limitations are and how you've been limiting yourself and how you've not been living your best life. And I hope that gave you some encouragement to just get out there and just live, just take a chance, just try something new, and to not let things from your past, not to let people discourage you from trying something new, from trying something that may change the rest of your life. So I hope you guys got something out of Take the Lid Off of Your Life. And then this week, you guys, our topic is off season. And we'll get started. Hey, Andrew. Hey, brother-in-law. And we'll get started in just a few minutes. Hope you guys are handling this heat. This heat is whooping me for real. I mean, I know that we used to get out and play in the heat, but I don't think we can play in this kind of heat. This heat don't play with nobody, young or old. Not at all. All right, you guys. Hey, Kinsley. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started because you know I do not like to take up your time because everybody's working. People are tired. People got things to do, kids to take care of, this, that, and the other. So our topic today, you guys, is off season. What I want to talk about today is how we need to learn, if you don't already know, how we need to learn when our season is up with a person, a place, or a thing. And when I say thing, I mean behaviors or habits. And how to handle your exit gracefully. You know, sometimes people part ways and they do it the wrong way. Sometimes they do it with animosity. Sometimes they do it, with hard feelings at the end of it. And as adults, we don't have to do that. We don't have to leave it like that. We can walk away and leave it a positive situation. So that's all about growing up and being a mature Christian. You got to learn to leave a positive effect wherever you go. Even if you have to leave a situation, just because you were there should make it a better place. If not, we're not doing our jobs. We're supposed to be the light. And so anywhere that we go, we're supposed to bring the light. And we're also supposed to leave the light. And they should fill a void when we're gone. And so we need to learn our place in people's lives. When we do this, it eliminates hurt feelings and misunderstandings. When you continue to stay in a season where you no longer belong, your presence becomes discounted and you become undervalued. And nobody deserves that. All of us know what it's like to stay somewhere too long and constantly end up getting our feelings hurt, constantly feeling like we're not enough, constantly feeling like less than, and feeling sad after we leave that situation simply because we stayed longer than we should have. We got to learn to handle breakups, goodbyes, and moving on in the most graceful way possible. There's a graceful and productive way to do anything, even in saying goodbye. Your goal in life is to be a mature Christian. Therefore, leave something positive along the way. Less misunderstandings, less anger, less hard feelings, less resentment. That's our end goal. We don't need no new enemies. We got plenty of enemies out there. Life is hard enough without you constantly making new enemies simply because you don't handle a situation correctly. And a lot of times we are in our feelings. That's not the time to make an exit when you're high in your emotions. That exit needs to come from up here, not from here. Because a lot of times people get upset and they give up on things and they give up on it too soon and they may miss out on their blessing. Let's talk about how to recognize when your season is up with people. Number one, you find less and less joy in being around that person. If being around that person just takes everything from you and you dread the idea of having to spend time with that person, your season is up. You're in your off season with that person. Your season is up. You need to make a graceful exit and move on for the benefit of both of you. Number two, if you have to wait and work up the strength to talk to somebody or spend time with them, if you got to wait till you're strong, or you have to constantly say to yourself, I can't handle them today, I can't do them today, something is wrong with that. Something is wrong with that relationship, because when you truly are in a connection with somebody, there's no wrong time. There's no better time to talk to them. There's no good time or bad time. When somebody's connected to you, you're supposed to be able to deal with them in all seasons of your life. But if you have to wait and work up your strength, or wait till you're not going through something, or wait till you're stronger to deal with that person, you're in your off season and you need to part ways and say goodbye. Number three, like I said earlier, when you feel drained after you've spent some time with them, they're pulling that negativity is so heavy on you, and they're taking everything that you got, that you have nothing left for yourself, nothing left for your family. You've got to limit your time with that. You're in your off season with that type of person. And if that person's always dumping on you, all of their junk on you all the time, they're really not your friend, because a friend not only will share things with you, but they'll be careful not to overload you. That's a true friend. That's a godly friend. A godly friend can feel in their spirit when they're overwhelming you, and they'll pull back. But somebody that's all about them, it's me. Those are those takers that are always dumping their stuff and taking all of your energy from you. You need to move around. You're in your off season. When you have more silence than conversation, number four, when you no longer have anything to talk about, when you sit around and you're trying your best to try to come up with something to talk about, you and that person no longer have that connection that you used to. Y'all have outgrown each other if you're having to try to find things to talk about. If you have to manufacture, is the word I'm looking for. If you've got to manufacture a conversation, if you basically got to try to come up with topics to talk about, that connection is not where it used to be. And maybe you need to move around. Number five, when your excuses or their excuses become too frequent. If you make excuses all the time not to see them and talk to them, or if they make excuses not to see you and talk to you, y'all are in y'all's off season. Y'all aren't even supposed to be in this season together, because y'all don't even want to make time for one another. When they're making excuses, you're making excuses for not getting together, not talking. Somebody needs to be mature enough to say, you know what, I love you, girl, but, I got some things that I really need to be working on, so you may not hear from me as much, but I'll check in on you, just see how you're doing. Make a graceful exit. You don't have to be ugly. You don't have to say, well, you ain't got time for me and I don't have time for you. Don't worry about it. I don't need you anyway. That's those misunderstandings, those hard feelings I was talking about. That's not how a mature Christian handles that situation. Number six, if you're always the person that has to initiate everything. That's in a friendship, that's in a relationship, and that's in a marriage. Somebody is no longer connected if you have to plan everything. If you have to initiate everything, you have to execute everything. That's exhausting, because you're almost fighting for that relationship all by yourself. It's like that other person is just letting you do all the heavy work, and they just chilling. They just enjoying the fruits of your labor. Yeah, I'll go on vacation with you, but I'm not going to plan nothing. But then they having a good old time, and you're worn out because you've had to do everything. So when you see that, understand they're not as invested as you are. And so if somebody's not invested as you are, before too long, that weight's going to get too heavy. That burden is going to be too heavy for you, and something is going to break. So you may need to make a graceful exit because you're in your off season. Number 7, if broken promises become a habit. If they're comfortable breaking promises to you, number 1, they don't respect you. Number 2, they're not invested in the relationship like you are. And number 3, they're not worrying about how you feel about it. So you need to recognize those things and not just stay there out of convenience, not just hang around them because they've been your friend all these years. If they keep breaking promises to you and hurting your feelings and letting you down, that's doing something to you, whether you want to admit it or not, because number 1, you're showing them how to treat you because you keep tolerating it. And that's one thing I had to learn later in my adulthood, is that I've been letting people treat me a certain way for so long. No wonder they treat me like that, because basically I'm saying it's okay for you to do that. I'm always misunderstanding. They break a promise. I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. And it seemed like the more I said that, the more promises they broke. I never got mad about anything. I never stomped and made a big deal and had a hissy fit. But when you don't stand up for something, you really will fall for anything. And when you don't stand up for yourself, people recognize that and they will begin to get comfortable mistreating you. And that's what you don't want. That's not who I am today, but that's who I used to be. I let people get comfortable mistreating me. So if they're breaking promises and it becomes a habit, or if you're breaking promises and it becomes a habit, hey Lynn, then sounds like you're in your off season with that person. Sounds like y'all are not good for one another. Therefore, as an adult, as a Christian, let's make a positive exit. Let's make a graceful exit. Number 8, when your responses go unanswered. That's text messages, that's phone calls, that's questions that you have for them. When those things go unanswered, as if you never said those things, or if you're being ignored, or if your phone calls are getting shorter and shorter, and you never really make that connection when you're talking because they always got something else to do, that's a sign, you guys, that you're in your off season with that person. That person is not making you a priority. So therefore, you can stay in that and keep feeling bad the way you're feeling, because you're going to feel bad. You're going to get tired of that eventually, because it's gonna eat away at you, and you're gonna have an emptiness inside. Because most of us long for connection. We long for somebody we can talk to. We long for somebody that will go back and forth with us and respond to us and help meet our needs and have that conversation and stimulate our mind. But when you're not getting that, there's an emptiness that starts eating away at. It's like a hole. The hole is getting bigger and bigger. Every time you continue to let somebody treat you like that, you get a big hole inside that God has to go back and try to heal later on. So you're in your off season. Number 9, when they become preoccupied, or if you become preoccupied with other things. And like I said before, they're no longer a priority to you, and you're no longer a priority to them. Then you are in your off season, and somebody needs to bow out gracefully. Number 10, when the trust is gone. It's hard for me to be in a relationship with somebody I can't trust, because it's not going to be a genuine relationship. Because if I got to watch you all the time, or if every time you tell me you're going to do something, in the back of my head I'm saying, okay, we'll wait, we'll see. If I'm doing that, slowly I'm disconnecting from you. Slowly I'm guarding my heart towards you, because I know I can't trust you. Vice versa. That's why a liar, I can't be friends with a liar. I don't want to be in a relationship with a liar, because I know me. And I know how I'll put up a wall that you won't even know is there, simply because I'll start what they call, where you start protecting yourself. I forget the word, but I'll start getting to the point where I'm trying to get my armor up so I can take care of myself and not even have to depend on you. And so number 11, when you begin to doubt yourself because of that person. When being around that person makes you feel less than about yourself, or makes you start doubting your abilities because you listen to their opinions, and when they belittle you or tell you you can't do something, and you begin to doubt yourself, that person is not good for you. That person is not for you, number one. And that person is also not good for you. You want somebody in your life that believes you can do anything that you put your hand to, because God's word said that you can. And if they don't see that in you, or they're not cheering you on or pushing you towards that and helping you remember that you can do all things, that person is probably not in the season where you are. You're in your off season with that person. And a lot of times, if you're not careful, you'll stay there, and then you'll wonder why you never do anything. You'll wonder why you don't get excited about things. You wonder why you're always afraid to try something new. Guess what? Hey, Shawana, guess what? It may be the company that you're keeping, that very person that you're trying your best to hold on to stick around with, and you're in your off season, and you're refusing to say goodbye and move on to better things. So recognize that, because a relationship, any type of relationship, friendship, family relationship, husband and wife relationships, and that's the only relationship I'm going to say is husband and wife relationship, it's supposed to make you stronger. When two come together, when 3, 5 come together, the higher the number, the stronger you're supposed to be. And if that's not happening, you're in your off season with these people, because iron is supposed to sharpen iron. You're supposed to get better just because that person is on your side. If you're going backwards, you're in the wrong season. Okay? So let's talk about also number 12, when the respect is no longer there. A lot of times we stay in relationships and things get out of control in those arguments. If they're comfortable calling you out of your name and talking to you any kind of way, that's your friends, your family, marriage, all of that. When they get comfortable saying those things to you, those hurtful things to you, and they don't care about your feeling, the respect is no longer there. So you've got to evaluate what season you're in with these people, because respect above everything. That's the way I am with my friends, with my family. You're going to have my respect above everything, because I can't even love you right if I don't respect you, and vice versa. So when they no longer respect you, you're in your off season with that person. Number 13, when you feel alone, when you're around them, when they make you feel like you're not connected, make you feel like you're not wanted. And women, I'll say this to you: don't ever let a man get so comfortable that he's okay with you not feeling love. He's okay with excluding you. He's okay about not showing you affection. Don't let it get to that point. You need to open your mouth and say something. I'm not talking about nag, this, that, and the other, but you need to have an honest conversation about how you feel and what you need from that person. Hey, Sandra, what you need from that person. Don't let that go on for years and years and years, and then you feel like you're alone even though you're in a crowd. Now, when it comes to your friends, if your friends are making you feel like you're not included with the group when you're there, you need to open your mouth and say something. Say, hey, what is up with y'all? Why are y'all making me feel like an outsider? Y'all not talking to me. Y'all are having little conversations by yourself. Y'all are kikiing about stuff and not including me. Open your mouth and stand up for yourself. Stop letting people treat you any and every kind of way just because you're familiar with them. That's not acceptable, and it's not okay unless you allow it to be okay. And this is a true story. I want to share something that happened with me with family. My grandmother on my mother's side, she had favorites. Some of these older women back then, I don't know if grandmas still do it now, have favorites, when it comes to their grandchildren, but she had favorites, and I was not one of the favorites. And I found out later on in life, because I never could understand why she could be so mean to us sometimes. She didn't like our father, our biological father, and that's why she treated us differently than some of her other grandchildren, which makes no sense, and it's not an excuse, but that's just how that went. But anyway, as she got older, all of my adulthood, especially when I first got out of the house. I was a single mom, got pregnant at 19, had my first baby at 20. I'm a single mom. I'm out there struggling, just got my first nursing job, just got my first little old rinky-dink apartment. I was proud of that little apartment. But anyway, and I had, little to no furniture, but it was mine. And it was a place for me and my son to live, and my grandmother, she had money. My grandfather had a really good job. But anyway, she used to change out her furniture, and she bought the good furniture, that expensive stuff, even back then. And she would give her old furniture to certain grandchildren. And those grandchildren, it didn't matter that they had a spouse or whatever. She just had favorites, and she would give them stuff and give them money and stuff. And like I say, not being the favorite, I never received any of that. But anyway, later on down in life, as she got older, she started needing more stuff, and she didn't drive, so she always needed somebody to come and take her to the store, go pick up her prescription, take her to the doctor, this, that, and the other. Well, all of those people she favored stopped answering her calls. And so she would call me, and I would go with her, run her errands, this, that, and the other. But you guys, I said all that to say this. You got to be careful how you treat people, because you don't know which one is going to be there for you. Even though I would show up for her, all she did the whole time I was with her was complain about those other grandkids that she had done all that stuff for. That would be the whole conversation, the whole day. Instead of her taking the opportunity to get to know her grown granddaughter and her great-grandchild, she chose to harp on those things, and she made me feel undervalued. She made me feel less than, simply because I wasn't even worth the conversation with her. She was more focused on those other ones and why they weren't doing for her like she wanted them to do. So that's why I say, know when your season is up, because the woman I am today, oh no, I would have called one of them and said, go take your grandma. Go take your grandma, because she wants you to take her. I'm just the backup. She wants you to do this. She wants you to do that. But you have to be careful about doing things out of obligation and allowing people to make you feel less than. You don't have to tolerate that. And I wish I had said something to my grandmother while she was doing all of this, and she did it pretty much every time I went to go help her. And out of respect, we were taught not to say anything, and I guess that little girl was still in me. Even though I was a grown woman, I had the right to speak up and say something, but I just didn't have the confidence I needed to do that. But that's my only regret. I wish I could have let her know how she was making me feel, and that was wrong. And I never spoke up for myself. So that's why I'm telling y'all, don't go through life letting people treat you any kind of way, because it's hard to recover from that low self-esteem, from that heartache of somebody not appreciating you. Anyway, let's move on. How do you know when your season is up at a specific place? Number one, it requires you to talk yourself into going. You know how it is, how sometimes we got to go to work and we have to talk to ourselves just to get out the door, just to pull up. We're sitting in the car 20 minutes on the parking lot because we don't want to go in. When it's to that point, then maybe it's time for you to make an exit and do something different, because your season is definitely up if you've got to talk yourself into going. Number two, you find a sense of purpose. You don't find a sense of purpose or fulfillment in being there. When it no longer works with the purpose that you have for your life, if there's nothing left for you to do there, you've done it all, and you're just empty and just going through the motions, then your season is up. Number three, Like I said before, it no longer serves the purpose it was intended to. You know, when you're not able to advance, when you're not able to be compensated, you know, the way that you know you need to be compensated, if they're not appreciating you and valuing your service, it's time for you to move on. Your season is up. And then number 4, when you spend more time complaining about something or a place rather than being grateful for all that you have, when that place pulls that negativity out of you and makes you talk about negative things more than positive things, then your season is up. When you keep finding reasons not to be there, that's even in a relationship. You know, if you keep finding reasons not to spend time with that person, or if you keep finding reasons not to go to that church, you keep finding reasons, you know, not to do certain things or be certain places, that's because your time is up. You don't have any joy left in doing it. You don't feel that there's a connection there anymore. So it's time for you to move on. Number 6, when you can't enjoy yourself on your off day for thinking about the next work day, when all you're thinking on your off day is, oh man, I gotta go to work tomorrow. You can't even enjoy the moment that you're in thinking about the next time you gotta be in that place. Then your season is up. You're no longer growing where you are. There's no challenge there for you. There's nothing that's pulling you, making you want to be better, make you want to just stretch outside of your comfort zone. Then your season is up there. Number 8, you no longer care about how you do things. You no longer have pride about how you do things. You know, one thing with my generation, and I can only speak about mine, you know, we want it done right, or we're not going to do it at all. Most of the people that I know are like that. I don't know too many sloppy people that'll just do things any and every kind of way. You know, we took pride in what we did. We like to stand back and look at what we did. You know, we want to be able to go home and say, you know what, I did a good job today. If you can't do that in the place where you're going, then your season is up. And number 9, there's nothing left for you to learn, and you're no longer being mentally stimulated by that job. You know, one thing I've learned about certain careers, sometimes you can do them for so long and there's just nothing left. With the medical field, there's always something new to learn. There's always another department you can go to, this, that, and other. But every job is not like that. Some things are basically what they are. This is what you do day in and day out. You're going to do that for 30, 40 years, day in and day out. You know, and if you're comfortable with that, cool. But if it makes you feel some type of way, or if it makes you feel like you're wasting your life, you're not doing anything important, then that means that your season is up. And like I said earlier, when you're being undervalued and underappreciated, your season is up. Number 11, when the environment that you're in is toxic, when you can tell that it's bringing out the worst in you, or your attitude is really bad after you've been there, your season is up. That place is not for you. And number 12, you keep feeling deep down inside that you're not living to your full potential and you want better for your life. That means your season is up. Number 3, when your season is up with a thing, which is your behavior or habit. Now, we have to all understand we outgrow people, places, and things, and that's normal. We should all be doing that as we get older. Number 1, you no longer get the joy or lasting result you once did. You know, if doing that thing doesn't bring you the joy that it used to, or if it brings you joy but it doesn't last long, that means your season is up. And you have to keep repeating it over and over again just to try to get it to stretch and last and still feel that joy. Your season is up. You're trying to hold on to something that you've outgrown. Number 2, when you feel less than or even ashamed because of it. If there's a habit or behavior that you got to sneak and do, or you can only tell so many people or certain people because, everybody else run their mouth too much. Evidently, you don't need to be doing it if you got to be worrying about who finds out about it. I'm just saying, your time is up with that. And especially as we get older, we ought to be making better decisions about what we do and how we do things, to the point where it don't matter who knows what we're doing. I'm not ashamed of what I'm doing. Okay? Number 3, if what you're doing hurts you more than it helps you. If you got a habit that's causing you health problems, causing you to get in trouble with the law, causing you to make bad decisions, then your season is up with that. You've got to cut some stuff loose. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. Now that I'm adult, I do adult things. I do grown folk stuff now, y'all. I don't have time for that childish stuff. I had my time with a lot of things. So now I got to act like a grown up. I got to do some things that's going to benefit me in the future. Number 4, when your motives for doing it are no longer genuine or pure. If you're just doing something to show off, or if you're just doing something, just to get attention, if you're just doing something out of obligation and your motives are not pure, your season is up with that. Number 5, when it's on a level that you should have surpassed by now. Like I said, when you still doing childish things, you feel it on the inside. I'm too old for this. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I'm too old for this. You'll feel it on the inside, and it won't even be comfortable for you. But if you're not mature in your mind, you'll keep doing it anyway, because there's always some low-thinking person or some childish adult that will encourage you to stay in that behavior. Because guess what? They want to stay there. They don't want you to go. They want you to stay there with them doing foolish things, childish things, when you should be on a level that's so much further than that. Number 6, when you do it out of fear, because you're either fearful of change or just unwilling to change. You're just too stubborn to change. Your season is up with that. Whatever you're doing, it's not working for you, but you still keep doing it, expecting something to change. Or if you're doing what you're doing because you're afraid to try something new, your season is up. You can feel that you can be doing more than what you're doing. You feel that fear, and you got to understand, God does not give us a spirit of fear. So you're going to have to talk to God about that fear, because that's not from him. That's a spirit that you're dealing with. But you're the only one that can deal with that. But your season is up. You may not want to admit it, but your season is up with what you're doing, because you feel that fear inside of you to take a step and do something better. Number 7, when it takes all your energy and your effort to do whatever it is, and you have nothing left, you're exhausted after you do it. God doesn't want that for us. He doesn't want us wearing ourselves out doing something that's not benefiting us. So if what you're doing does nothing but leave you exhausted and worn out, and you don't have nothing left for yourself or nobody else, you've outgrown that. You're out of season with that. Number 9, when it no longer fits the plan you have for your life. Sometimes we do things because we've been doing it, but doggone well, it don't fit with where God is trying to take you. But you're afraid to let it go. You better pay attention to God and be obedient and let that thing go, because it's holding you back. It's hindering you. Hey, Pam, it's hindering you. But it doesn't fit because it's not even comfortable anymore. You smile even though you know that it doesn't even feel like you anymore. So you've got to make the decision to change. And number 10, when God tells you to leave it alone or let it go, you need to let it go. That's when you know that you're out of season with that. So how do we make a graceful and positive exit from a season that we know we no longer belong in? There's a way to gracefully bow out, gracefully move on. Like I said earlier, without the hurt, without the resentment, without the hard feelings. You don't have to have all of that. Nobody needs all that drama. in their life. And the only people that can stop the drama is us. Number one, think before you do. Like I said before, don't make a rash decision, out of what's going on right in the moment. Weigh the whole thing out. Look at how it's benefiting you, what it's costing you. Is it making you better? Is it making you worse? Look at the whole thing. So think before you do. Before you make your exit, make sure you're doing it for the right reason. Number two, don't take everything so personal. Don't let your emotions and your feelings make decisions for you. Because sometimes it's God moving you to the next level when it's time to make an exit. You don't have to be all dramatic about it. You don't have to feel some type of way about it. It's okay for you to move on. And if that person is or isn't mature enough to accept that, that's okay. But you make sure you leave the right way. There's nothing you can do about what people say about you when you do leave. But know in your heart that you did it the right way and that you did it for the right reason. And that's all you got to worry about. Number three, when it comes to leaving people, I want you to remember some people are not ready for somebody like you. And that's not your fault. Sometimes you have to leave people alone because they're not used to somebody like you. When they're disrespecting you or not giving you, what you're needing out of the relationship, don't take that personal. Sometimes they just don't know how to deal with a person like you because they've never had anybody like you. Hey, Christia. Or they've never had a friend like you. That's why they don't know how to treat you right. But that's not your fault. But you also don't have to stay while they try to learn how to do it right. So it's up to you to make the decision if you want to bow out gracefully or if you want to give them a little bit more time, because it's going to take some coaching from you to get them to treat you the way that you need to be treated. So you've got to decide if that person is worth the investment, if you feel like that they're really willing to change and that they value you enough to change. Some people, lips will say anything. Y'all got to be careful. Oh yeah, I won't do it no more. I promise I'm going to be better. I'm going to be better. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. And then I invested my time and I gave it time. And it actually got worse than it was before. It was good for a little bit just to make me think things were going to change. But then when they got comfortable, the old them came back out again. And as long as I kept letting them repeat that cycle, I'm not going to do it again. No, I'm going to do better. I promise I'm going to do better. Don't go. I'm going to do better. Every time I believed that and I gave them more time, more of my energy, more of my years to get it right, and then the cycle kept repeating. Because some people just can't handle you because they've never dealt with somebody like you. But that's not your fault. So don't put that blame on yourself. Just know when it's time for you to peacefully bow out of the situation and move on. B, people have a reason or a season for being a part of your life. Be grateful for the good times. Even if you have to leave, be grateful for the good times and take the lessons out of the bad time. Nothing happens without it having a purpose. So I've had to really get that down in my spirit in order to forgive some things, in order to move on from some things, because I have to understand I got something out of it all. There was nothing wasted. And I thank God for that, because there was literally nothing wasted that I went through. And it takes time to mature to that fact, to where you don't have hard feelings towards people. I can see some of the people that have hurt me in the past, and I've had friends say, how can you smile at them? How can you go up and hug them? Because they left me something. They helped me in some kind of way. Even though they didn't know they were helping me, they thought they were hurting me. God has a way of turning that pain that people try to inflict on you into something good. And you have to remember, God is a God that cannot lie. And he says in his words, what's meant for evil, he will turn it around for your good. So you have to hold him at his word and just trust him that there's a purpose for everything. And then that's my next thing. It all serves a purpose. I jumped ahead of myself. And then D, be honest and open about why you're making the exit. You know, when you're leaving somebody or leaving a situation, don't be afraid to let them know why you're leaving and be honest about it. You know, whether you have to say, you know, I feel like, you know, that I gave it everything and you weren't really in it like I was in it, or I felt like I was the one that was always having to make all the decisions and I just don't want that for my life. I want a partner. You know, don't be afraid to explain why you're leaving if you choose to, because sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes it's just best just to leave. But if you want that person to understand why you had to leave, so that maybe they'll be a better person to somebody else. For me, that's the purpose of that. If I'm gonna leave you, I'm gonna explain to you why I'm leaving, because I'm hoping what I say to you, you know, will resonate with you. I'm hoping that you're mature enough not to, you know, have hard feelings just because I told you, you know, what was wrong with the situation. I'm hoping you'll be mature enough to say, you know what, she's right. You know, or I see that. I see how I was doing that. You know, and maybe you'll be better for the next person. Okay? And then E, allow people to feel the way they feel about you making the exit. If they want to be mad, let them be mad, because that's something they got to deal with. That's why I say you do it the right way. You can't help if they get mad. You can't help if they get an attitude. You can't help if they don't ever want to speak to you again. You can't help if they talk about you and lie about you to other people. That is not your problem. Your only issue is how you left, and make sure that it's pleasing to God how you left. God will take care of the rest of that. God will shut their mouths. God will let things happen in their lives to where they can't talk about nobody else because they're going through so much hell. So that's not your job to worry about that. Your job is to make sure that you leave, and you leave in a positive and mature and productive way. F, be big enough to apologize. And that's something, you know, a lot of times adults don't want to apologize. You know, you have a part in the relationship falling apart too, and apologize for your part. Or if that person, as you're telling them why you're leaving, they start telling you some things that you did, even though you're still planning on leaving, leave that person with an apology, because not only did you have things that bothered you, they're finally talking about what you were doing that bothered them, and you need to be honest and sincere and give them an apology, because a lot of times when people don't tell you that you're hurting them or tell you that you're doing something wrong, sometimes you don't catch it. And then it seems like when you get ready to make an exit, everybody's all in their feelings. They want to tell you about you and you wasn't this and yada 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 yada. Boo, I'm sorry. I wish I'd have known this before. Maybe we could have worked on this if you had. You know, or friendships, you know, how, well, girl, you know, you act like such, 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 such. Okay, well, I'm sorry you felt like I act like that. I'm sorry that I wasn't a good enough friend to you. So be big enough to apologize, because that other person has feelings too. The other person has things that they've been holding back, not telling you. Allow them to get that off their chest before you leave, because that way everything's out in the open, and hopefully it'll make you a better person and it'll make them a better person. G, wish them well and be sincere about it. Be sincere. Don't be leaving talking about you ain't gonna never find another friend like me, you ain't gonna never find another woman like me. Stop all that, because ain't none of us that great. None of us. So make sure you wish them well and that you're sincere about it. H, pray about if you should continue to communicate with that person after you make your exit, or if you need to completely close the door. Because sometimes, you know, you can make an exit, especially out of a relationship, and you can try to remain friends with somebody, and they say you give them mixed signals. You know, sometimes people are not mature enough to understand that this part of our relationship is over. We're now friends. Everybody can't do that. And so you need to ask God to help you not to send somebody mixed signals. You know, even if it is something that you're doing unaware, and then sometimes people think they can still flirt with one another, but they're not in a relationship, and then, you know, they wonder how the drama happens. You playing too much. You doing too much. So ask God to help you know if you should continue to communicate with this person because you're still meant to be in their life in some way, you still have a purpose in their life, or if you need to close the door completely because you can't be trusted and they can't be trusted, or you're immature and they're immature. You're going to bring up old stuff, they're going to bring up old stuff. You know, what's the point in that? You're just wasting time. So ask God to help you decide which way to go with that. And one sure way, I'm sorry, three sure ways that you can tell that you really need to close the door. If number one, you always have to revisit the past pain and hurt. If they always want to talk about what you did wrong in the relationship, oh, you didn't give me an opportunity to do that, you was this, you was that, close the door. Let that go. Number two, if it's more negative than positive conversation, close the door. If they don't want what's best for you after you've left them, close the door. And that's even with a job. You know, if they don't have any well wishes for you, or they don't have anything nice to say, you know, you may still stay connected with your coworkers and stuff on Facebook and stuff. They can't never congratulate you as you're moving on and you're going higher and higher. Cut them folks off. Cut them off. They haters. Cut them off. Now, when it comes to places, okay, number one, get prepared for your next season before you leave your present job. I always told my kids, don't leave one job without having another, because you leave yourself in a bind. You leave yourself with a gap in how you're taking care of yourself. And I believe that even, you know, in friendships, I'm not saying don't leave a friend until you've got another friend, but make sure that you're done when you leave. Because like I say, when you're straddling the fence, then you're sending mixed signals. And then you end up being lost and wandering. Number two, get excited about moving forward. You've got to get excited about your next move, even when you don't know exactly what it's going to be. But you've got to get excited because that's your motivation. Number three, don't be afraid of the unknown. Number four, use everything in your past as a stepping stone to take you to the next level. Let nothing go to waste, you guys. Number five, let go of any resentment or hard feelings. Heal from that. You have got to let go and focus on your purpose. You can't do both. You can't be looking back and looking forward. Your neck don't work like that. You've got to make up your mind. Either I'm going to look forward or I'm going to look back. It's a choice. You can't do both. So you've got to let go of whatever somebody did to you in your past, who didn't support you, who didn't love you, who left you. If you're going to move forward, you've got to keep your eyes forward. And number six, remember the good times more than the bad. In every situation, pretty much there was some good times at some point. So focus on the good times instead of dwelling so much on the bad that happened. And when it comes to things, number one, create new habits and hobbies that fit where you're trying to go. Number two, don't try to go back in time and do what you used to do. Be grateful for the memories you made so far. You ain't got to go back and try to relive the past. Be grateful, reminisce over the memories, but move forward. You got more memories to make, but you've got to move forward. Three, ask God to give you the desires of your heart that will line up with His will for your life. Number four, do things that have a purpose. Don't just do things that take up your time, because you're not going to be fulfilled by that. Number five, don't forget to take care of yourself in the midst of everything that you do. Self-care is absolutely 100% so important, because you can't do anything if you don't take care of yourself and your relationship with God. Those two things got to be at the forefront, because that's what's going to give you what you need to keep going. That you got to have your health. You got to have your mental health. You need to get your spirit right so that you do things in decency and in order. Okay? And then number six, enjoy and get excited about each day. Don't talk about what's happening a year from now. Get excited about today. Get excited about your tomorrow. Every day has something to be excited about, something to be grateful for. So get excited about each day as you're moving forward on your journey. Number 7, do it with a pure heart and the right motives. Because God will bless you if your heart is right and your motives are right. And you can't fool him. Number 8, make sure whatever you do is working towards the solution, not creating a new set of problems, you guys. Sometimes we do stuff and all we're doing is making our life harder and harder with the decisions that we're making. Make sure whatever you do is working towards whatever problem you got. Make sure what you're doing is working towards solving that problem, not making another problem to go with that problem and then another problem to go with that problem. Be intentional about what you do. Think about what you're doing. Pray about what you're doing and ask God to order your steps. My final thought, as Joyce Myers always says, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. It's our job to value others, but it's also our job to recognize when there's nothing left on the table. Sometimes we stay and ain't jack on the table. Sometimes we stay and those people ain't bringing nothing to the table. You the only one doing your best, giving your best, staying encouraged, trying to uplift others. You've got to recognize when there's nothing left on the table to get. And it's time to make an exit. And you got to do that for your own peace of mind, for your own health, and for your own happiness. After all, you deserve it. You guys, thank you so much for watching. We will not have Talk About It Thursday next week. I've got some construction going on at my house. But we will be having our first, check this out, you guys, annual real estate symposium. See, I made that sound real fancy. Real Estate Symposium. That's going to be on a Saturday, August the 12th at 11 a.m. That's going to be our next podcast. And it's going to be with Michael Allen. He's a realtor here in Tyler. And he's going to be talking about real estate, what we need to know about real estate. Some of you guys that don't own homes and want to own your own home, y'all need to get on here. On this podcast, you need to ask questions. Whatever we don't have the answer for, we'll get the answers for you. And I can always message you back. But don't miss an opportunity to get educated, you guys. We have got to open our minds to bigger and better. So that's going to be August the 12th at 11 a.m. It's going to be our first annual real estate symposium. Love you guys. Y'all be careful in this heat. Stay hydrated. Y'all be safe, and I will see you guys next time. Have a blessed night. Bye-bye.